Daniel chapter 2. And in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Daniel dreamed dreams wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him. Then the king commanded to call the magicians and the astrologers and the sorcerers and the Chaldeans for to show the king his dreams.
All right. Wanted to apologize. We had some audio issues. The audio was back on the stream. We just read Daniel chapter 1, and what we wanted to go over with that is how Daniel and his brethren were chosen as children to learn wisdom amongst the Chaldeans because of them keeping Yah's way in this captivity. Whereas you might have seen much of Israel complaining and assimilating and changing and forgetting their Elohim, because you got to remember why we went into captivity the first place. So we're at Daniel chapter 2. Let's start that over. We're at Daniel chapter 2. We'll start this at verse 1.
In the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him. Then the king commanded to call the magicians and the astrologers and the sorcerers and the Chaldeans for to show the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king. And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, that my spirit was troubled to know the dream. Then spoke the Chaldeans to the king in Syriac, O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, the thing is gone from me. If you will not make known unto me the dream, but the interpretation thereof shall be cut in pieces, and your houses shall be made a dunghill. But if you show the dream and the interpretation thereof, you shall receive of me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore show me the dream and the interpretation thereof. He answered again and said, let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation of it. The king answered and said, I know of certainty that you would gain the time, because you see the thing is gone from me. But if you will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me, till such things that any magician or astrologer or Chaldean.
Till the time be changed, therefore tell me the dream, and I show you that you can show me the interpretation thereof.
Okay.
Verse 10.
The Chaldeans answered before the king and said, there is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore there is no king, master, nor ruler that asked such things at any magician or astrologer or Chaldean.
Because they don't have any spirit. They were doing deception. So they were doing things of so-called mystical knowledge and fooling people and doing trickery, like, which is what magic is now. Same thing. Mm-hmm. And they got away with it. So when he's asking them to do something spiritual, they can't do it. And they're saying nobody can do it because they don't know Yahweh. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. And it is a rare thing that the king requires, and there is none other that can show it before the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh. For this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. And the decree went forth that the wise men should be slain, and they saw Daniel for his fellows to be slain. Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, why is the decree so hasty from the king? Then Arioch made the thing known to Daniel. Then Daniel went in and desired of the king that he would give him time, and that he would show the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and made this thing known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions. And they would desire mercies of Allah of heaven concerning the secret, that Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon.
All right, so Daniel could have took it upon himself and said, you know what, I'm gonna get down, I'm gonna go pray, and I'm gonna figure this thing out. But instead, he went and got some witnesses. He went to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his brethren, that are also righteous. Peradventure, Yahweh hear one of their prayers. So he went straight to the saints, to the brothers that keep these commandments, and got with them and said, let's figure this thing out. Let's pray to Yahweh. Go ahead.
Then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. Then Daniel blessed the Elah of heaven. Daniel answered and said, Blessed be the name of Elah, for ever and ever, for wisdom and might are his.
And this is when you'll see in Hebrew those type of words, Elah, Eloah, instead of Elohim or Al. We'll see those different variations when they go in captivity, when they start to pick up these different dialects and these different vowels, these different things of confusion. Go ahead.
And he changes the times and the seasons. He removed kings and set up kings. He gives wisdom unto the wise and knowledge to them that know understanding. He reveals the deep and secret things. He knows what is in the darkness, and the light dwells with him. I thank you and praise you, O Elah of my fathers, who has given me wisdom and might, and has made known unto me now what we desired of you. For you have made known unto us the king's matter. Therefore Daniel went in unto Arioch, whom the king had ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon, went and said this unto him, Destroy not the wise men of Babylon, bring me in before the king, and I will show unto the king the interpretation. Then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste, and said thus unto him, I have found a man of the captives of Yehuda that will make known unto the king the interpretation. The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar.
And notice just how they always change the names. Any of the names that give glory and honor unto Yah, they change it and they put their own gods' names in there. And they're Baal, Belteshazzar, which means like Baal something, They change the names. This is the actions of the heathen, how they operate. This is no different than now how they changed our names. And even in that famous scene with Roots, what's your name? Kuta Kente and all that type of stuff. No, your name is Toby. They strip you away from your culture because they know there's power in your name. Because when you are given this glory and honor to Yah in your mouth, in your actions, and even in your name, it can be used against them. Go ahead.
And the king answered and said unto Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, Are you able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen and the interpretation thereof? Verse 27. Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, The secret which the king has demanded cannot the wise men and the astrologers, the magicians, soothsayers show unto the king, but there is an Elah in heaven that reveals secrets and makes known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Your dream and the visions of your head upon your bed are these. As for you, O king, your thoughts came into your mind upon your bed, what should come to pass hereafter. And he that reveals secrets makes known to you what shall come to pass. But as for me, the secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living, but for their sakes that shall make known the interpretation to the king, that you might know the thoughts of your heart. You, O king, saw and behold a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before you, and the form thereof was terrible. The image's head was of fine gold, the breast and his arms were of silver, the belly and his thighs were of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. You saw till that a stone were cut without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and broke them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, became like chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that there was no place found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king.
Now, when you interpret somebody's dream, that's one thing. But when you're able to tell somebody what they dreamt and then interpret it, there's no argument about that interpretation. Go ahead.
You, O king, are a king of kings, for the Elah of heaven has given you a kingdom, power, and strength and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of heaven, has he given unto your hand and made you ruler over them all. You are this head of gold. And after you shall arise another kingdom inferior to you, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth.
Which is the Persian and the Grecian Empire. Go ahead.
And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaks in pieces and subdues all things, and the iron that breaks all these shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas you saw the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as you saw the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so that the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas you saw iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And in the days of these kings shall the Elah of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as you saw that stone that was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it break in pieces the iron and the brass and the clay, the silver and the gold, the great Elah has made known to the king what shall come to pass after the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure.
So Daniel's given this prophecy of these kingdoms with Roman Empire, and then going from the Persian Empire into the Roman Empire, and then when you go further in Daniel, it confirms that with how the Grecians were going to be ruling next, and he's getting all these things, but this is not even for his time. But once again, Babylon is on top. They are ruling, and his gifts by Yahweh are on display because of his righteousness, because these brothers refuse to eat the dainty meats, and they refuse to bow down to Belteshazzar and all that stuff, to Nebuchadnezzar, and they upheld their culture of righteousness, even though they went into captivity, and they accepted the punishment that our people have been iniquitous. This is why we're in this punishment. Go ahead and finish that up.
Verse 46. Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer him oblation and sweet odors unto him. The king answered unto Daniel and said, Of a truth it is that your Elah is an Elah of gods, is an Elah of Elahs, an Elohim of Elohims, an Elah of Elohims, and a master of kings and a revealer of secrets, seeing you could reveal this secret.
And this was the whole purpose of the Hebrew, to go into these nations, to go amongst captivity and be at the bottom, be raised to the top, and cause the heathen to say, you know what? This foolish thing that I was worshiping, that's not real. This couldn't do nothing, but your Elohim, that's real. Your actions, that's real. We need to be more like you, and we need to operate the way you do, because what we doing, yeah, it got us in position of power, but at the end of the day, we servants to you. We got to wait for you to tell us what to do and tell us what's going to happen. So this is how Yah was supposed to get his glory. We weren't supposed to go into captivity and say, we're going to be Belteshazzar and no longer be Daniel. They can call us Belteshazzar, but we're supposed to uphold Daniel. We're supposed to uphold that strength with all, and be that example to the heathen, so that when we are raised up, because we are patient and we're waiting and we're trusting in Yah, then the heathen can turn around that have common sense and say, you know what, your Elohim is real. But why would they believe that when we turn around and get punished by Elohim, and then turn around and do the same things that the people that are punishing us do? That has never worked, and it's not going to work now. Do we finish that up?
No. Verse 48.
All right.
Then the king made Daniel a great man, and gave him many great gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief of the governors over all the wise men of Babylon. Then Daniel requested of the king that he should set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the prince of Babylon. But Daniel sat in the gate of the
All right, so these brothers are all raised up. All these brothers are now raised up. They have been promoted in Babylon's system. They are now rulers and presidents over all these other native Babylonians because of their trusting in Yah and because of the gifts and the glory that Yah has put on these individuals. So now that you have been exalted by Yah, how do you operate? There's going to be a test. You are put in that position of power for a reason. There's going to be a test coming. And when that test comes, what are you going to do? You're going to be afraid to lose that natural position that you have attained while you're in captivity, understanding that you got that position in captivity because you did righteousness. So shouldn't you remain righteous and depend on righteousness when you receive that big test again? But this is where we fail. We're humble when we're at the bottom. We get exalted up. And then when we get to the top, then we forget Yahweh. So let's see how these brothers operated. Go to Daniel chapter 3.
Daniel. Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold whose height was 60 cubits and the breadth 6 cubits, and set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together the princes, governors, and the captains, judges, treasurers, and the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Then the princes, the governors, the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then a herald cried aloud, "You it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at the time you hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, that you fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king has set up. And whoso falls not down and worships shall the same hour be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. Therefore, at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and all kinds of music, all the people, the nations, and the languages fell down and worshipped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Wherefore, at that time, certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Yehudams. They spoke and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. You, O king, has made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoso falls not down and worships, that he should be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. There are certain Yehudim whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded you. They serve not your gods, nor worship the golden image which you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spoke and said unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do not you serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now if you be ready that at what time you hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, you fall down and worship the image which I have made, well. But if you worship not, shall be cast same hour into the burning of a
midst of the burning
in the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is that Elah that shall deliver you out of my hands? And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said unto the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer you in this matter. If it be so, our Elah, who we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, Be it known unto you, O king, that we will not serve your gods, nor worship the golden image which you have set up.
So if you in captivity and you in a oppressed state and you already used to and you don't really want to live no more and all that, it might be a little easier to be, you know what, I ain't serving your gods, man. Just gonna have to kill me because life sucks anyways. But when you're in a position where you have been raised amongst the children of captivity to a higher state, to a higher position where you have authority and you have prestige and honor, and then now all you got to do is sell out. All you got to do is turn your back on Yahweh to so-called keep your dainties. That's difficult. But that's what we do. We when we're in the younger state, we hold fast to this righteousness, we survive all these tests, and then we get elevated. And then once we get elevated above where we were before, we don't want to give that up. We don't want to give up those earthly honors. We don't want to give up that good job. That same job that you said, you know what, I ain't working Sabbath days. I'm sorry. I just have to be unemployment. Then you get raised up, you get the position, you become this great manager or this executive or whatever the case may be. And then they say, you know what? You're going to have to come work these Saturdays now. Or else you're going to lose your job. Well, now I got this house, I got all this stuff, I can't give this up. So I'm just going to have to come in on Saturday. You can't do that. These brothers said, you know what? We are not careful to answer you in this manner. We're not serving nobody gods. We serving Yahweh, point blank. It is what it is. Yahweh can save us from anything. Yahweh can get me a new job. Yahweh can get me a new wife. Yahweh can get me a new house. Yahweh can get me new situations if I trust him and I keep this righteousness. But when you're afraid to lose all the gifts that Yahweh has given you for righteousness' sake, you're afraid to lose that. Then you're proving yourself not worthy to receive all those blessings that he gave you. You're defeating the purpose. That's the whole reason he set you up in righteousness, so you could be the example. Go ahead, brother.
Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, and the form of his visage was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spoke and commanded that they should heat the furnace 17 times more than it was to be heated. And he commanded the most mighty men that were in the army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to cast them into the fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their coats, their hosen, and their hats, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, and the furnace exceeding hot, the flame of the fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Because the same thing that you would have happen to somebody in wickedness is the same thing that's going to happen to you. So those men that went and tried to do the deed got burnt up. So everybody know this fire is for real. This is not a light fire that they're dealing with. Go ahead.
Verse 24. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, and rose up in haste to make, and spoke, and said unto his counselors, did not we cast these 3 men bound in the midst of the fire? In the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the son of Elah. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace, and spoke, and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you servants of the Most High Elah, come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth of the midst of the fire. And the princes, governors, and captains, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men upon whose bodies fire had no power, nor was a hair of their head singed, neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar spoke and said, Blessed be the Allah of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants that trust in him, and have changed the king's word and yielded their bodies, that they might not serve nor worship any other Elah except their own Elah.
All right, so Nebuchadnezzar had amnesia for a little bit. He forgot about Yahweh, Elah, Yahweh. He forgot about him. You expect the heathen, they'll forget. They need to be reminded. But Yasharal not supposed to forget. We not supposed to forget that our father Abraham sat and talked to a burning bush that burnt and didn't disintegrate. We're supposed to remember those type of things. Go ahead.
Verse 29. Therefore I make a decree that every people, nation, and language who speak anything amiss against the Allah of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other Allah that can deliver after this sort. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon.
All right, so let's go to Daniel chapter 6 for the conclusion.
Those who were unbelieving got their sign.
Right. So these brothers, man, it's very difficult once you are in this land of captivity and you're used to being afflicted, and then the captor raises you up and puts you in a comfortable position above your brethren, above many of his own people, of his own kindred. It's very difficult to decline selling out when you are in a threat of losing this privilege that you have. But you can't forget, well, where you got that privilege? That Gentile? The Goyim? No, Yahweh put you in that position. The same one that put you in that position of captivity. Yeah, you might be physically under captivity of the Goyim, but Yah allowed you to be in that captivity. So you have to see the thing out and walk in a proper manner, in a proper conduct, so that you can see what is all this for? What is my purpose? It's not just to be a slave. My purpose is here for a reason. So Daniel chapter 6, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 princes, which should be over the whole kingdom. And over these 3 presidents, of whom Daniel was first, that the princes might give account unto them, and the king should have no damage. Then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole realm. Then the presidents and princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could not find none occasion nor fault. For as much as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him. Then said these men, we shall not find any occasion against Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his Allah.
Now, can they say that about us? That we're not going to find any offense in them other than, we have to find something in his commandments. That's the only way we're going to find something to hold against him, because he's going to keep all the laws of the land. He's going to do everything. We got to find something else. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Verse 6. Then these presidents and princes assembled together to the king, and said thus unto him, King Darius, live forever. All the presidents of the kingdom, the governors and the princes, the counselors and the captains have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree that whosoever shall ask a petition of any Elah or a man for 30 days, save of you, O king, he shall be cast into the den of lions.
Now we know that's going to be a problem with us, because we pray every day. We pray at least 3 times in morning, noon, and night. We supposed to pray. Go ahead.
Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing that it be not changed according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which alters not. Wherefore the king Darius signed the writing of the decree. Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went into his house, and his windows being opened in his bedchamber toward Jerusalem, he kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day, and prayed, gave thanks before his Allah, as he did aforetime.
Okay, so did he do this just to be rebellious?
No.
He did this aforetime. He been doing this. Every day he was praying before Yah to give thanks, probably at the times of meals, to thank him for being able to eat or whatever the case may be. He prayed. So this wasn't going to change because there was some law. Yeah, but they couldn't trap him in any of these other laws. They had to find something concerning his Elah to get him to trip up, because they knew he was not going to transgress Yah's law. Go ahead.
Verse
11.
Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his Elah. Then they came near and spoke before the king concerning the king's decree. Have you not signed a decree that every man that shall ask a petition of any Elah or man within 30 days, save of you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? The king answered and said, The thing is true according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which alters not. Then answered they and said before the king, That Daniel, which is of the children of the captivity of Yehudah, regards not you, O king, nor the decree that you have signed, but makes his petition 3 times a day. Then the king, when he heard these words, was sore displeased within himself, and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him, and he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him. Then these men assembled unto the king and said unto the king, Know, O king, that the law of the Medes and Persians is that no decree nor statute which the king established may be changed. Then the king commanded and brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. Now the king spoke and said unto Daniel, Your Elah whom you serve continually, he will deliver you. And a stone was brought and laid upon the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet, and with the signet of his princes, that the purpose might not be changed concerning Daniel.
So these Hebrews have walked in a manner and have received enough blessings from Yahweh to cause the heathen to believe, the leader to say, you know what, I believe in Yah. There's no way Yah, that from what I understand of your God, that he's going to allow you to die for this thing. I was tricked. I can't change anything, but I trust your Elohim. That's faith. That's more faith than a lot of these Hebrews have. Go ahead.
Verse
18.
Verse 18. Then the king went to his palace and passed the night fasting. Neither were instruments of music brought before him, and his sleep went from him. Then the king arose very early in the morning and went in haste unto the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried with a lamentable voice unto Daniel. And the king spoke and said to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living Elah, is your Elah, whom you serve continually, able to deliver you from the lions? Then said Daniel unto the king, O king, live forever. My Elah has sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, that they have not hurt me, for as much as before him innocency was found in me, and also before you, O king, have I done no hurt. Then was the king exceeding glad for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no manner of hurt was found upon him, because he believed in his Elah. And the king commanded, and they brought those men which had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions, them and their children and their wives, and the lions had mastery of them, and brake all their bones in pieces, or ever they came at the bottom of the den.
So again, the thing that you would have happen to your Hebrew is going to happen to you. Blessed is those that bless Israel, cursed is those that curse Israel. And that goes for Hebrews against Hebrews the same way. But look here, was it these children or these wives? Were they the ones that caused Daniel to be thrown in the den? No. But because of the wicked deeds of these men that are jealous of this Hebrew, them and their whole families are now facing the death, a horrible, violent death, because of the wickedness of the father. So as heads of our households, we got to be very careful about the actions and the deeds that we do. And to ensure that those deeds don't cause this harm on your own family, you got to check your heart. You got to check that jealousy and that envy and that bitterness that you might have because of somebody else's situation or because of somebody else's gift. Is not all these gifts come from Yahweh? Why don't you petition to Yahweh and pray 3 times a day like this brother did? And maybe walk according to the commandments so your prayers can be heard. Go ahead and finish that up.
Verse 25.
Brother,
Go ahead, Elder.
I just want to say that the same thing happened to Korah and his family too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he brought that accusation, you know, against Moshe and Aaron, and so after Yahweh judged the thing, showed that, you know, Moshe is his priest, and Iran, and you were in error, and because you willfully and evilly came across against my servant, you know, thinking you all that in a bag of chips, you and your family died. And then he killed the 250 elders that were standing next to him, you know. So Yahweh's judgment is always righteous, you know. It's just we don't realize how serious it is when we open our mouth, we do a thing against Yah, because our families feel ashamed when we do something against Yahweh. We injure our whole family. You know, they may not die, but the injury is upon the whole family, and when everybody look at the family, they always see that same error that was made because it was so detrimental, you know, in its making. So, you know, I'm glad you brought that point up, you know, about what had happened already, what had happened to them who subtly went against the king, and the king knew that Yahweh was Almighty Yah, and you saw it where he said he was trying to help him, he was trying to save him because he wouldn't believe, but he was tricked. So he said, since they got some, you know, they tricked me, and I had to do what my law say do, because he's a man of his word. Whatever came out of his mouth, he has to do. He still was hoping that God would save those men, because those men also they earnestly believe in the Elohim, and he was becoming a believer, you know.
Right.
So praise Yah, glory to Yah.
Right. And that was Numbers 16 that they talked about.
Rebellion of Korah.
And Yahweh called them out to the front, and because of that, Korah was extinguished. And this is, you know, these are Levites. And Yahweh said, you know, wasn't, you know, enough that you would be servants, you know, and come near to me? And what was that? Numbers chapter 16. The ground clave asunder, and they went under them. Earth opened up her mouth and swallowed them up, and their houses, and all the men that appertained unto Korah, and all their goods. They and all that appertained to them went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed upon them, and they perished from among the congregation. And all that Israel that was round about them fled at the cry of them, for they said, lest the earth swallow us up. And there came out a fire from Yahweh, consumed 250 men that offered incense. So, you know, 250 men also got destroyed because of that rebellion. So, you know, you coming against things that you don't know better. You know, it might be wise to pray about the matter and check your heart to see what is the condition of your heart before you come against a servant. Are you coming against a servant for his benefit because he's doing something that's going to get him in trouble? Or is there some kind of jealousy or envy or ambition that's causing you to do those actions? Because those are the things that will cause you to be blind to the commandments that you grew up so-called understanding. Go ahead and finish it out, brother.
Verse 25. Then King Darius wrote unto all people, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom that tremble and fear
kingdom of men tremble and fear before the law of Daniel, for he is the living Elah, and steadfast forever, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall be even unto the end. He delivers and rescues, and he works signs and wonders in heaven and in earth, who has delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. So this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. All right, so now the heathen is now mandating that all of the men in his realm, in his kingdoms, have to now fear Yahweh. All because a man refused to fear man and esteemed Yahweh. So we don't know how this is affecting. Now, when you have Yosef reigning over Egypt, or you have Daniel reigning over Babylon, It's going to be a whole different environment because now you have a brother that's reigning, that's keeping Yahweh's commandments, that's going to make righteous judgment. So it affected that whole realm, and it caused those lands to multiply and grow and benefit and become superpowers because they had righteousness in that land. America, same thing. Had brothers and sisters in this country that were taken advantage of, that brought a blessing to this country. But as soon as the children of Yasharal left whatever captivity they were in, that place never became a superpower again. It was destroyed. So the same thing is going to happen to this captivity. Once we are in a state where we can be blessed as a nation, we can't be blessed as a nation when we don't have the remnant sealed yet, according to these commandments that are going to take up that Holy Spirit. Until we have that, that captivity is going to keep going. But while we're in this captivity, we are not going to escape all the curses. There's generational curses that we have to deal with. Proverb, byword, not knowing, our exact heritage or where we come from, our families. We don't even really fully know what tribe we're from. We can only kind of, limit it down from geography and history. These are all the curses that we can't escape. But there's certain curses that we bring on ourselves that we can alleviate by returning unto these commandments, by walking in righteousness, by checking our hearts daily for the actions that we do that is not our culture. That is of the culture of the heathen, to do all that envying and strife and pagan worship. And as we get into these holidays, this is our opportunity to be blessed in this captivity by saying, you know what? I'm not going to take part in that. Yeah, I can get a free meal. And yeah, I can get a free gift. And yeah, I can get this and that. No, I can't take part in that. I have to show that I'm still going to receive blessings by not taking part in your pagan activities, because I'm taking part in all Yah's activities. So let us consider that these stories are in here for a reason. All of us are not going to be, put in a position where we got to face a burning fiery furnace or a lion's den or face, going thrown into a dungeon, because Pharaoh's wife had to be beautiful. He wasn't like he was gonna marry some random Egyptian woman. She probably was one of the most beautiful women of the time. We might not all face that, but in the little challenges that we have in our lives, we have to show the proper conduct of righteousness so that we can be blessed in this captivity. So other people can look to us and say, wow, you can be blessed in this captivity by holding on to Yahweh's commandments. So that's all we're going to do today. Any last questions or comments before we close in prayer? Right.
Bro, one thing to say on that.
Go ahead, Elder.
See those guys that went against them, that was their last straw, because to give Yahweh, true glory, true honor, to his people. Because if you already went against the king to have these men destroyed after they were lifted up by Yah through that king, you understand? And then you want, they saved them from the fire. I mean, you get bound up in all your clothes, and thrown in the fire that's 7 times hotter, you and your brothers, and then your Elohim shows you the mercy and the love he has upon you and provides safety for you, when you don't even smell like the smoke they threw you in, you don't even feel it,
right.
Your clothes is burnt.
Right.
You understand? Then what makes you think? What do they make? What makes them think that these guys, are going to go against their father?
Right.
You understand? But you see, they were, too smart for themselves. Because if they couldn't think on that length, on that level, all they was thinking right now is evil in the eye. Let's kill these men. We don't like them from the beginning. We couldn't do it the first time, so we see how we do it this time. So we got to find a way to kill them. So obviously, you see, that's Satan right there. He's too smart for himself.
Right.
Because they don't see the wisdom that Yahweh gonna take care of his people. You understand? And their lives is on the line, not theirs. Because even if they were gonna die, they didn't care. Their hearts are so full of joy of Yahweh for being saved. You understand? There's no way they're gonna go against Yahweh,
Right.
alive or dead. You know what I mean? So this is how Satan fools himself and how he tries to fool
Right. That's a good point. It wasn't like they didn't see it. They saw, they were aware of the power of our Elohim and how we could be delivered through righteousness. So they had their chance. They had their chance to repent after that fire. They had their chance to repent, but Satan convinced them, just like he gonna convince the nations to come against Yasharal. After we done had 1,000 years of peace on the earth with the Mashiach being revealed and the resurrection. So that's a powerful deception. What kind of wickedness do you have to have rooted in your heart that after 1,000 years of peace with the Mashiach and a righteous government, any entity can come and convince you to go up against that when there's been peace? So that's all we're going to do today. Let's go ahead and end in a prayer. All brothers